blue people sounds like a very bad knockoff of Avatar, or maybe even the Blue Man Group in a discounted tour. But nope, they are actually real people with real blue skin and have walked the earth. And not just in fairy tales or costume parties. Real skin that was blue. I have never heard about this, and that realization had me spiraling down a rabbit hole, and what I found is both wild and fascinating. The story of the legendary blue people of Kentucky.
Light, pale, and blue. A couple shades lighter, and they'd have the perfect crisp gray skin like me.
Yes, Sonia. Well, everyone, welcome to Stories and Sass, and today's story is the legendary people of Kentucky. Before we even think about getting to Kentucky, blue skin has shown up all over history and culture. All the way back to Julius Caesar, he actually wrote about people painting themselves blue to terrify enemies. In North Africa, there was the blue men of Sahara because indigo dye literally rubbed onto their skin. And then there's mythology, Egyptian gods, Hindu deities. Blue skin meant fertility, power, divinity, but sometimes blue wasn't symbolic, it was literal. Take Paul Carson, for example. People nicknamed him Papa Smurf. You know, if I was Paul, I'd be a little irritated with that. But Papa Smurf started drinking colloidal silver water for his eczema, and surprise, it turned him a grayish blue. Or Rosemary Jacobs, who as a kid was prescribed a silver-based allergy drop, and instead of relief, well, she would be permanently blue. Moral of the story, sometimes alternative medicine doesn't just fail, it makes you look like you wandered out of a Smurf movie. And as shocking as these cases might sound, they're just little appetizers, you know, little pizza rolls for you, because the main course is a whole family turned blue. No medicine, no colloidal silver water, just all natural. Let's rewind to the early 1800s, Eastern Kentucky, a place literally called Troublesome Creek, because apparently "don't even bother coming here" was a little too long to put on the wooden sign. It was rugged terrain, it was isolated valleys, it was not easy to transport in and out. And into this wilderness walks Martin Fugate, a French orphan, and he marries Elizabeth Smith, a pale redhead. But here's the kicker. Martin's skin is a dark indigo blue. These two would have 7 kids. You know, that was the time. Just keep popping them out, Mary. I feel like their areas were just like more springy back then. It was just so easy to just like, they didn't even have the technology we have now to make it less horrible, and yet they did it. That's my theory. It wasn't because back then you were looked lower than if you weren't having many children. And I'm pretty sure they probably needed them to tend the farm, especially in this isolated community. Anyway, out of the 7 kids, 3 were extremely pale like mom, but 4 came out blue like Papa. And just like that, the legend of the blue people began. So now picture living in a very tiny Appalachian settlement where everyone already knows everybody's business. Okay, something happens, they're going to know. And then a family of just blue people show up. Yeah, you know you're gonna be the neighborhood gossip just because of your skin. And it was going fast, faster than a Kentucky banjo. The Fugates became the talk of Troublesome Creek. Folks would gawk, people would whisper, and came up with all kinds of wild theories. I mean, they didn't have Google or ChatGPT back then, so they were just, it was working from their brain. Many people of this time said that their skin was a sign of illness. Others claimed it was a sign of the devil. The devil did it. That was probably most of what people thought back then. You know, anything different was the work of the devil. And let's be honest, time too, a small town isn't exactly a roll out the welcome mat for anything slightly not normal. So the Fugates would withdraw even more into their already isolated community, and with limited outsiders coming in or leaving, let's just say that the family tree didn't exactly branch out too far. Nobody wants to get down and busy with the blue folks that everybody think is sick or is a demon. So for over a century, nobody could really figure out why the Fugates were blue. Locals tossed around guesses, you know, theories all the time. Heart disease, bad blood, lung issues, the devil. But the family was actually a very healthy group of people, living well into their 80s and 90s like it was absolutely nothing. just with blue skin. So the blue skin would just remain forever a mystery. Was it an illness? Was it something in the water? Or were they just born like this, you know, Lady Gaga style? No answers, just endless stares, whispers, and ridicule. Well, enters a doctor named Madison Caween. It's C-A-W-E-I-N. I wanna say Caween the third, and I think I'm gonna go that route. Caween is just, I like to say it. Anyway, Dr. Madison Caween the third was a hematologist from the University University of Kentucky, who, by his own words, thought blood cells were very beautiful. Yep, that was a quote. He said that, and I think that's a little bit of a red flag just because of the time. You know, quirkiness wasn't celebrated back then. I find someone in the 19 whatevers saying blood cells are beautiful, I would think that they want to see my blood cells. Although many people thought that he was a red flag, he was actually pretty helpful. Dr. Queen had already worked on treatments for things like cholera, Parkinson's, but when he heard the rumors of the Blue family in Eastern Kentucky, he said, oh, and he had to just go investigate. And lucky for the Fugates, the man's obsession with blood was about to solve their whole mystery. Dr. Queen came into this tiny little Kentucky town, not by himself. He wasn't alone. He teamed up with Ruth Pendergrass. She was a nurse, but she's kind of known for drawing blood from a local woman who said, that probably called herself Blue Comb. And the encounter stuck with Nurse Ruth forever, and she was determined to see more blue-skinned Kentuckians. So together they had Dr. Queen and Ruth Pendergrass, two people really interested in blue stuff, and eventually they would strike gold, or blue, and they found Rachel and Patrick Ritchie, siblings with unmistakably blue skin. Finally, the doctor had his patients blue, and what he discovered inside their blood would rewrite the Fugate family story forever. So Dr. Queen would test the Ritchies, and he didn't find like heart disease, nothing fatal, nothing was wrong, but what he did find was very fascinating to many, and it was a rare condition called methemoglobinemia. We're gonna put that on the screen because we all know I most likely said that wrong. Let's just get to the sciencey part that you guys all care about, okay? Don't worry, I'll break it down like a normal person. So normally our blood has less than 1% methemoglobin. I can say that word, but I can't say the other word. Anyway, that's the form of hemoglobin that can't carry oxygen. Well, the Fugates, they had 10 to 20% of it, enough to turn their skin strikingly blue, but not enough to kill them. So they're just walking around blue, healthy as ever, and it turns out that they were just missing an enzyme called diaphorus, which keeps hemoglobin balanced. And well, without it, oxygen transportation gets a little wonky and a little funky, and the result is blue skin and even chocolate brown blood. Yeah, you heard me, chocolate brown, not red, chocolatey brown. Don't eat it. It's not supposed to be edible, you little vampires. So here's the part that sounds a little like a plot twist. Dr. Queen figured out a way to de-blue the Fugates. And the cure was called methylene blue. Yes, the cure for being blue was, well, more blue. The plan was very simple. They're gonna inject the methylene blue. It's gonna act as an electron donor, flipping the blood chemistry so oxygen can finally bind normally. And within hours, Rachel and Patrick Ritchie went from blue to pink. For the first time in their lives. So imagine waking up one day, taking a pill, and watching your skin color just shift like a Snapchat filter. I'm surprised people didn't scream devil, right? Usually anything scientific is the work of demons, especially back then. But the siblings, they were so relieved. They were normal. They weren't smurfs anymore, or just blue, because the smurfs weren't a thing back in the day. So Dr. Queen would give them this every single day. And these tablets would keep the blue down so they could have normal skin. With the cure in hand, Dr. Queen traced the condition back to the family tree. Sorry, doing a lot of sciencey thing. And it all started with Martin Fugate and Elizabeth Smith in the 1820s, both unknowingly carrying this recessive gene. Combine that with the fact that Troublesome Creek was basically genetic Groundhog Day. Cousins were marrying cousins, neighbors marrying neighbors, and you know, doing a lot of country things. And so eventually that blue gene would flourish. One of the Fugates even married his own aunt. Not even the sister, the aunt. There can't get more Kentucky than that. No offense to anyone watching who's from Kentucky. Anyone from Kentucky in the room? Did you marry your aunt? Are you carrying the tradition? Anyway, their 8 children carried the gene forward, and the cycle continued. In a small, isolated town with no railroads, no real outsiders, and no reason to leave, it was almost inevitable. I mean, it's a time where you have to procreate. I mean, if there ain't nobody else, you got a sister Anna Marie over here. She's ready and willing. So by the 20th century, as transportation and medical care improved, the Fugate descendants began mixing with a wider population. You know, they no longer had to marry their aunt, their sister, or cousin, you know. The rare gene would also get diluted a lot. A lot more fewer people were born with the crisp blue skin, but the legend wasn't gone. Not just yet. In 1975, Benjamin Benji, they would call him, Stacy would be born. And instead of blue, this boy came out purple. Doctors freaked out and prepped him for a transfusion until someone remembered, oh wait, his great-grandmother was Luna Fugate, who was actually blue. Eventually, baby Benji would mellow out into like a normal skin tone, but rumors would follow him. Neighbors swore his lips and nails would still turn blue when he was cold or angry, you know, this little boy would get mad and he'd start getting blue like Hades. I wonder if he would get super mad, he'd start turning red, which in that time, probably better. I would choose the blue color over a red color because people would probably think that you're really a demon at that point. The Fugates became a textbook example of how genetics plus isolation can make rare traits just explode in small populations, especially if you're marrying your own cousin and aunts and whatnot. Their story also shows how environments and geography can shape human biology in very dramatic ways, from mythology to medicine, from small town to gossip to global fascination. The blue people of Kentucky prove that reality can outdo legend. And I loved it. Very little story, but I was very curious. You know, sometimes I'm scrolling and I read a lot of books and I follow a lot of history pages. And now that I'm doing this channel, my For You page is a lot of random facts. And these pages only give you like a tiny little excerpt of what it is. And I just saw family of blue. And I just had to read what it's all about. Because when I first thought of blue people, I thought they were just people that painted their skin every day, you know, like Avatar or a bad, you know, spray tan, or spray tanning them blue. But no, it's people with a very interesting genetic gene and that dated their cousins and aunts. They weren't even cursed. They weren't even sick. They were just healthy people who just happened to look like they stepped out of a sci-fi movie. All thanks to one recessive gene, a lot of isolation, and a doctor who was a little too excited about blood, but ended up helping them a lot and figuring it out instead of screaming, "Demon!" And that's why the story of the Fugates remain completely unforgettable. It's a part of a mystery that got solved, a part of a medical marvel, and 100% proof that the truth really can be stranger and bluer than fiction. And I loved it. Did you guys notice I had to do my blue eyeshadow? You know I had to pay my respects to the Fugates. They were my makeup inspiration today. The blue skin doesn't exist today. I mean, we do have technologies for this, but I like to think that we are so progressive and accepting and just loving people that if we saw someone blue walking around the street, we would completely embrace them with acceptance and love, because we don't mind that people are different, right? You guys, thank you for coming to today's Stories in Sass. If you're enjoying them, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if there's a story that you guys want me to sprinkle a little sass on, darlings, please suggest more stories. Like she said, please suggest more stories. We have a few more coming up that many of you guys have suggested. So I'll see you guys next time when we open that book and I tell you a story with a little bit of sass.
Where my goals at? Hey, it's time for all of us to rise. We stayed in the crevices of the earth, but now it's time. There's no time to wait. Fun is at stake. My goals, you know what to do. The touch of the darkness is here, while mortals running